Good evening, everybody. It is Thursday evening, August 24th today, 2023. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I appreciate you being here. There's so much good information that we're going to go over tonight. I've got all my notes in front of me. Hopefully, screen sharing is going to participate with me today. And I'll be able to share some of the things that I feel like are really important for you guys to know about what's going on in the real estate market today, actually for like the past couple of years. And I think one of the things that I hear most right now is from people saying they're going to wait till interest rates come down, which I don't blame you at all. I completely get it, especially after what we just came out of. Seeing interest rates go from so low to so high is a massive jump. That being said, one of the other things that I keep hearing people say is they're waiting for the bubble to burst. They're waiting for, basically they see 2006, 2007, coming all over again. In 2008, obviously everything went to hell in a handbasket. And so they're kind of thinking that this is going to happen again. Hey, Betty from Dawson, thanks for tuning in. Always good to see you. So I just want to kind of touch on that a lot because I think that there's this sense of fear, and I get it. I can't say that we all know what we're doing in terms of reading the market long term. I think earlier this year, a lot of us, especially in the real estate world, really expected for rates to start to come down towards the end of the year. And it was very quickly shown that with Powell continuing to raise rates and reading into what he was doing as far as trying to get inflation in order, rates were not coming down anytime soon. There are talks of them coming down still later in fourth quarter. I'll be honest with you, I don't see it. I don't see it happening. I don't see that coming. I see, if anything, rates continuing to go up. But in regards to the bubble, the market crashing, the market has crashed. We already have, and we are in the middle of that crash right now. However, I think where the issue lies is that a lot of people are thinking that it was going to be a crash like 2008, where we were going to see home prices dropping significantly. We were going to see this mass of flooded foreclosures coming on the market. And unfortunately, for people that are thinking in those terms, that's just not what we're going to see in terms of a crash. The crash that we're seeing right now is buying. Sales have never been so low, and it's just a different type of crash. And so home prices are still rising, interest rates are still rising, but home sales are falling, and they have fallen steadily over time. And so rarely do we get to below 4 million in sales across the nation. And right now we're at 4.07 million. So we're just above that mark. So we're barely keeping up with what we normally see. And inventory is the biggest issue. Inventory is steadily an issue across the nation. I was going to share this slide with you guys here. So this is looking at the existing home sales. This is going nationwide. So this is for July of 2023. And so if you're looking, we're right at that 4.07 million. And month over month, it's gone down 2.2%. But if you look year over year, so looking July of 2022 to this year in 2023, we're down 16%. So 16% less sales this year than we were having at this time last year. Now, the other thing for you to remember in this, and that I don't feel like they fairly represent, is every fall we start to see sales go down. Every year in August in Georgia, school starts back, people are getting back into their routines, so to speak, and they go back to just work and school. So we're not going to see as many sales in August. We're not going to see as many sales in September. And that's just something that you see happen year over year trend. So I do want you to keep that in mind when you're looking at some of these numbers. Now, what you're looking for here is the inventory. We're at 3.5 months basically of inventory. So last year we were at 3.2 months. So we haven't really gotten any better in terms of the inventory. We're still very much in a seller's market because in order to have a balanced market, we're looking at more for about 5 to 6 months of inventory. 6 months is considered a balanced market. Anything over 6 months, you're looking at a buyer's market because there's more homes on the market than there are buyers actually buying. And so that puts, the ball in the buyer's court. Then if you look at the median sales price, we're at 406,000, which is going up 1.9% since this time last year, which that's not a significant number. And I will definitely take that number over the past couple of years where we were, going up at rapid numbers, which no one can keep up with. That's where inflation is coming into play. So 1.9% is definitely a more realistic number. However, it's still trending upwards, where I think a lot of people were really anticipating that that number was going to fall back. We were not going to continue to see a rise in home prices. Now, keep in mind that this is national numbers. So I wanted to take it and just go a little bit further into Georgia specific, because that's the market that I'm in. That is the market that I know. And so I want to make sure that I'm sharing this with you guys here. So I've tailored this to be in Gwinnett County specifically. You can see that here, because if you do Georgia as a whole, that's really not a fair play, because the southern parts of Georgia, where we've got the plains and things like that, are far less populated than the northern parts of Georgia. So it's going to be a very different market and not really comparable. So I'm specifically looking at the north side. So I put in Gwinnett County, and you can see here, we're looking at the average sales price, the median sales price going on. So as of July 2023, we're at $425,000 for an average sales price. So if we go back here and we look at July of 2022, we were at $420,000. So not a significant increase. We're right in that, 1.2% range, which is kind of going with what the national average is. However, if you look at new listings, you can see we had a massive downfall here, which we, again, trending down here in the, August, September, October timeframe. That is not a surprise to me at all. That's something that we usually see. What we don't usually have, though, is this much of a drastic fall. I mean, it started back in June of last year, and it just never stopped. It just kept plummeting with the new listings. So we've never really bounced back from that. And as of July 2023, the new listings that came on are only 1,200 new listings. So if we look at how many homes are currently for sale, we're looking at about 1,700 homes that are actively for sale. So this is where the driving factor of what is keeping home prices up, right? Because we don't have the inventory for things to come back down. So if we look on days on market, they plummeted again, right? Because I don't know if you guys remember, last year, July is when things really started to change with the Fed, and they started to raise interest rates over and over and over again. It just felt like, you're in a punching match, and they were just knocking us every single month. That they would come out and say they're raising them again. And so July is when that started. So days on market started to tick up a little bit during that time, and it just never stopped until probably December of last year. And then I think a lot of people really realized, okay, this is the new norm, right? Like what we saw from mid 2020 to mid 2022 is done, right? We're done with that. We're over. And so this is what we're starting to see as the new norm. And so it came back down. And realistically, as of July 2023, we're only at 10 days on the market. So that's still drastically low. A normal, kind of safe place, if you will, what we would see in a normal market was about 30 days on the market. And it's so funny because now I know for me being a realtor, and I've talked to some of my colleagues, when we have a home that's on the market longer than 7 to 10 days, we actually are starting to be like, okay, what do we need to do? What's wrong? Did we not, price it appropriately because we're chasing the market, seeing how things are changing, seeing how, pricing is changing. And realistically, 14 to 30 days on the market is a standard time to be on the market. So it just goes to show you how the last 2 years has really jaded us um, as a whole and what we're thinking and what our expectations are. So Zillow is one that they came out and they said that they believe if we hit 8% interest rates, that we will drop below that 4 million mark in sales. So we will actually get lower than we've ever gotten in the home sales. Right now, they're saying if we get up to 8%, right now we're looking at a 20-year high. So in 20 years, it hasn't been this high of 7.4% interest. So that's where we are as of today, 7.4% interest. Now, if you look at things year over year, going back, a couple of decades, 7.4% actually isn't that bad. But when you're looking at the perspective of every one of us that is probably currently buying a home, and especially the ones that are coming into the market, right? The millennials that are coming in and they're buying their first homes, they haven't really seen interest rates. You probably haven't seen interest rates over 6%, right? That was probably the highest that you've ever seen it in the last couple of decades. And now we're at 7.4% interest, heading towards 8%. I will be honest, I will not be surprised if we hit 8 before the end of the year. I know that they're saying interest rates could come down. That's, what they're trending. I personally I'm an optimistic person, but I'm also a very realistic person. And I just don't see that happening. I don't see the numbers there yet. I will be very happy if first quarter or second quarter 2024, we start to see that. But I don't believe that we're going to see that anytime in 2023. So looking at that, prices are still increasing. And I think where this gets a little chaotic and where people are like, wait a second, this doesn't match up, is because in history, when interest rates would go up, prices would come down, right? So interest rates go up, prices come down. Interest rates come down, prices go up. It's just, equilibrium. However, this time that's not happening. And why this is so different from the bubble of 2006, 2007, leading up to 2008 is this is seller and buyer driven. This isn't faulty lending. This is completely different. This is buyers saying, wait a minute, I don't want to pay this interest rate, so I'm pausing. But then they're realizing, okay, we're going to just go ahead. But then sellers now are saying, wait a minute, I don't think I want to sell because of I'm locked in at a really great interest rate. Why would I even bother? So one of the interesting things that I thought, Barbara Cochran, I don't know if you guys keep up with her. I keep up with her. She actually has been in the real estate industry for about 40 years. So she's seen so many markets. I listen to a lot of what she says. However, one of the things that she's recently said here, let me just go to it, is that first-time home buyers, in her opinion, no better time than to buy right now, right? And so that's great. She just said that. However, if you look back going into December 4th, 2018, she literally said the exact same thing. And we were in a totally different market. And so for me, this just goes to show what I keep preaching. The right time to buy is when you're ready. Everyone keeps trying to time the market and see when is it going to be perfect. There is no perfect market because right now we're at really high interest rates. And so that scares a lot of buyers off. And there are a lot of people that it totally disqualified them from being able to purchase a home because a lot of people don't realize your interest rate going from 6.5 to 7, that 0.5% completely changes your affordability. So you might have been looking at a $500,000 house and now you're looking at a $450,000 house just by increasing that monthly payment, that 0.5%. So there's a lot of people that have been sidelined. Right now, you're able to get in and actually get an inspection, get an appraisal done, go back and look at the house a second time or even a third time while you're in your due diligence period. Whereas a year ago, you were not able to do that. You were fighting people, you were multiple offers. And it's not to say that we don't still have multiple offers. We do still have multiple offers. However, it's very different than it was, a year and a half ago, 2021, where we were literally standing in line. I remember vividly standing in line in January, freezing cold, and we were in line 20 people deep to get into this house to see it. And I never thought I would see that in my life. But right now, you're not seeing that as much. So right now, you do have the ability to negotiate a little bit more, but you're going to pay for it. You're going to pay for it in that interest rate. Where if we start to see rates drop, and let's say that they surprise us in first or second quarter next year, they do get them back down to 6%. When we've been seeing rates at 7.5% to 8%, 6% is going to look really good, and people are going to flood the market again. And now you've got that competition. However, you've got that lower interest rate. So only you can decide what is the right thing for you. Nobody can tell you that, not Barbara Cochran, not me. Your lender can educate you on what the numbers look like, 7.5 versus 7 versus 6.5, so that you can play with those numbers and see what's realistic for you. But you have to buy when it feels like it's the right time for you. Don't sit here and try and time the market, because you will literally make yourself crazy and you will keep putting it off and putting it off. And here's the thing. You saw just from last year, people that bought in July versus July now have already gained equity. It's not a lot. It is only 1.5% basically, but they're still gaining equity. And so if you look here, interesting things, the housing market for 2024, will home prices go down? Home prices have been on fire lately, historic highs. July's median of 406.7 was the highest July median price NAR has ever recorded, and only the fourth time that a monthly median has ever exceeded 400,000. So will home prices drop in 2024? Probably not. Home prices are estimated to rise another 3 to 4%. So if home prices are still looking to go up, you're just gaining equity. So yes, you're paying more in an interest rate, but you're also gaining equity at the same time. You can negotiate those terms with your lender if they come down. So you have to just really play with those numbers and see what's going to work best for you. Will 2024 be a buyer or seller's market? In today's market, tight inventory gives sellers the upper hand. The more buyers than there are homes available. That's what we were just talking about. So I really think that it comes down to when you are going to be ready to buy a home. I always suggest talking with a lender first. They're going to be able to work with your numbers. They're going to be able to tell you what your monthly payment looks like on homes that you're seeing that you like. And that way you can really get a good feel for, is this the time for me? Am I getting the home that I'm looking for? If you're in a townhome right now and you're looking for a single family home and you realize that you're really not going to be able to get the home that you were looking for, it has nothing that you were looking for, now's not the time for you. Stay where you are or rent for a little while. Wait for things to come down. But then just keep in mind that you might have to put a little bit more effort in as far as getting out there and quickly making an offer, waiving some contingencies. You have to be ready for those things. So you just have to play with it. Now, if we look here, this is going back to Zillow. Home prices rise as buyers outnumber sellers. This is what we were just talking about. Monthly home value growth of almost 1.5% is the highest since June of 2022. Sales rose nearly 10% from April to May, and inventory reached a record low for May. So that's what we're talking about here and why we're seeing these drastic numbers. Now, one of the things that I find interesting, and I feel like people have been kind of having in the back of their minds, because if you go back to 2020, you had people that were going into forbearance, or they were filing for forbearance. And I think a lot of people have been waiting to see how that was going to play out. Forbearance was basically something that you filed if you weren't sure what was going to happen with your job. Obviously the whole world shut down. That's never happened in my lifetime, probably not yours either. And so people were really scared. Am I going to lose my job? How long am I going to be out of a job for? We were all sent home. Am I going to be able to work from home? What is this going to look like? And so the government offered the option of forbearance. And so people could file that. And then if you didn't make your monthly payments on your home, you were not immediately put into a foreclosure status. However, a lot of people filed forbearance, but they didn't actually end up needing to use it, especially here in the South. After about a month and a half, we kind of started going back out. After a couple of months, we put on masks and we're basically out and about as normal. And by the end of 2020, it was like it never happened as far as being stuck in the home. So that being said, we bounced back rather quickly. And a lot of people that filed for forbearance didn't actually need to put that in play. They had kept up with their payments the entire time. So I feel like a lot of people have been coming to me saying, Ashley, where are the foreclosures? I've been waiting on a good deal. I hate to tell you guys, that's not happening. The people that filed forbearance, a lot of them got caught up. A lot of them that, needed it, just needed it for a very short time. And so look at this graph here. Let's see. So this graph here will show you. And if we look, we have not had, this is when a lot of people filed for forbearance, foreclosure, and now we've just continued to go down, right? So I'm sorry, this is back in 2020 or 2008. So you can see this is when everything went high and then coming down. Y'all, we have not seen a rise in foreclosures. 2015, we saw a little bit of a spike and then it's just gone down ever since. And so that being said, you have to keep in mind that we're not going to see a flood of foreclosures. And there's an interesting statistic right here. Over 91%, so get that, 91% of homeowners have an interest rate that's under 5%. So only 9% of people that have a mortgage, and keep in mind, that's the other thing, over 40% of homeowners own their home outright. So with what's left, 91% of the people that have a mortgage have an interest rate that's below 5%. Only 9% of people have one that is higher than 5%. This is the reason that we have an inventory shortage. If you have an interest rate under 5%, why would you sell it right now? The only people that are selling are people that are selling because of a need. They're being relocated to another place because of a job. They're moving for family reasons. They want to downsize, or they really, really need to, get a larger home. That's the only thing that we are seeing. And that's why inventory is so low. Anthony, my man, good to see you. Powell speaking at Jackson Hole tomorrow, but other Fed chair people said they support more hikes. That's the problem. When are we going to see a pause, right? Let the market catch up. Give us a break. Let things play out a little bit. Let's just stay put for a minute, see what plays out. I feel like, especially with the holidays coming up, I feel like it's going to rock the boat even more because of the fact you have these seasonal jobs, right? People that are going to work at farms for pumpkin patches and fall festivals and things like that. Then you've got the people that are coming in for Christmas and, the holidays. They hire a bunch of people for the season. So I'm hoping that he's going to be smart and take that into consideration, because that will only rock the boat even further if those start to jumble the numbers. And if you kind of look last year, I feel like that kind of played into it, because looking at those numbers, Anthony, I remember you and I actually talking about this, looking at those numbers, unemployment dropped significantly last year around the November, December timeframe. And I'm wondering if that won't play in this year and if it's going to scale the numbers. And if it does, well, I guess we'll see how that plays out. So I will say the major things that I really want people to take away from this is 1996 to 2005. was a completely different ballgame. There was too much credit given to people, and it was not really checked, right? So the reason that things are so different now is after 2008, there were many more laws, lending laws that were put in place to make sure that people are not borrowing more than they can pay back, so that we don't have the same situation. And if you look at the market today versus, when we had the bubble before, this is more based on people pulling back compared to people buying more than they could qualify for and more than they should have qualified for, and the lending was bad. This is a completely different ballgame. So I still 100% think that we have had a housing bubble. We've had a housing crash, but it's not in the form that people really thought that it was going to be. Carl, hey, from New Jersey. What's the weather like up there? It's 100 degrees here in Georgia. I'm dying. I'm waiting on my fall weather. Anthony, do you think there's a magic interest rate that will lower demand to cause prices to drop 8 to 9%? That's a great question, and I wish I had a good answer for it, but I really don't think that there is a magic number, because the problem is still going to rely on inventory. And with having so many people having such low interest rates, they're not going to sell. And so I really don't know how we're going to compensate for that. I think it's going to be a lot of builders getting catch up and creating new home opportunities. I think it's going to be a lot of what we talked about a couple of weeks ago, where some of the commercial real estate that's not being utilized any longer, because a lot of people, or a lot of businesses, I should say, did scale back. A lot of people have gone back to work in person, but a lot of them have scaled back on the sizes of the offices, because maybe you're going back in person 2 to 3 days a week compared to 5 days a week, and maybe some people are still virtual at home. And I think realistically we're going to have new housing opportunities, not resale housing opportunities, in order to compensate for some of the resales, because so many people have these low interest rates, and they're not going to give. There's no reason for them to give. So I wish that there was a magic number. I don't see it happening. Carl, cloudy and 71. Oh man, that sounds fantastic. So I appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. I hope this helps. I want to make sure that I'm bringing you all of the information and the facts so that you can keep up with what's going on day to day. I hope to see you guys next week. We're going to be going back to week after week. I will see you guys next Thursday at 7 o'clock. I'll see you then.